right. Joe, it's good to connect with you, man. It's I know it's late there. You're in Friedrichshafen, Germany. Where is Friedrichshafen as it pertains to the country?
So I get this question a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And the way I describe it usually is I'm at the base of the Swiss Alps, and I live literally. My apartment is 2 blocks from the Bodensee, which is Lake Constance in English,
Yeah.
and it's right at the southern border of Germany. I can see the Swiss Alps from my street. I can go out on my street here and see the Swiss Alps, and I can see Austria. And so I'm at this kind of like triangle where all three countries meet here.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually have been there. I just didn't know where it was geographically because I played against Friedrichshafen many times in Champions League when I was playing overseas too. And so it's a beautiful place. And the club history is really cool too. They've had such a presence in Europe for so long. And the crowd was cool. It was a good vibe. I had good, I mean, we would typically beat them down, but there were good matches from time to time. But anyways, how are you? Are you enjoying your time there?
I love it here. Actually, like you
Yeah.
talked about the tradition a little bit, the arena that they played in for a long time, ZF, literally in September or the beginning of October, they announced they had to shut it down. They told
Ah,
us, and within 3 days we had to leave. They said they found like rust in the roof, and so we had to scramble to find an arena. And so besides that, it's been good. The COVID situation is just really bad here in Germany, just like
yeah.
everywhere else, but making it through.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, I mean, it's good to connect with you. You and I, we just mentioned this is the first time we've ever had the chance to talk, but I've heard about you, of course, and I was excited to get you on the show and get your perspective on all things volley because that's what the show's about. So, um, give us a backdrop into your volley journey up to this point. Like, how did you first get into volleyball? What did it look like for you when you were just getting into the sport?
So yeah, that's pretty crazy. Like I mean, my brother and I. So anybody who knows kind of myself and knows that my brother and I kind of traveled. Like we always play together, beach
Yeah.
tournaments, club teams. We were always together, and so our journeys are really kind of like tied in together. Um, so we were. I was born in Missouri. We moved to Hawaii, where my dad was the assistant coach, or he was volunteering both the men's and the women's staff at the time. And that's kind of like towards the beginning of his coaching career. We moved to Rochester, New York for his first like official kind of like university head coaching job. And we lived there for 9 years, and that's where my brother and I first started playing club volleyball.
Hmm.
And we got
Man, so you
introduced,
guys
and we
went
started playing
from
for.
Missouri to Hawaii to Rochester.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot of miles.
It was it was crazy. Our first winter was brutal. But
Yeah.
that's where, yeah, Rochester was where we got introduced. Pace Bootlegger Volleyball Club, which I
Yep.
feel like a lot of people will probably be
Yeah.
familiar
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
That's where we first got introduced into the sport. And then from there, when we were in 2010, 2009, no, yeah, 2009, we moved to California for my mom's work and also a little bit of volleyball. We knew that, like, my parents knew that for my brother and I, like, opportunity wise, that moving to the state of California was huge for us and giving us
Yeah.
opportunities to play with high level clubs and getting to play in like kind of the California club volleyball scene was huge. And so my first year there, actually, my dad was on staff with the Stanford men's team with the Shojis, McLaughlin, all those guys, Brad
Yeah.
Lawson, kind of the Hawaiian ties there. He was on staff for that year. They won the national championship. And then after that year, he started up a volleyball academy, Pacific Rim Volleyball Academy.
Hmm.
And since then, we grew up playing there. And we had a couple years where we were able to win the juniors national championship. We from there, I went on to play at the University of Hawaii. That's kind of like a
Yeah.
short out, but pretty much from when I was 11 years old to 18, my dad was our coach. My brother was was our libero, and my mom was the athletic trainer because she's a certified athletic trainer. So
Oh,
it was
cool.
like we had the whole team in our household. So
How
yeah,
how
that's how it
hard
kind of
was
worked for
it?
us growing up.
How hard was it for you? I mean, you just mentioned you had some time in Hawaii, but like being at that time from NorCal, what drew you to eventually decide to go play in Hawaii?
So it was, I mean, anybody who kind of has played with me or knows kind of my whole story knows that like I'm on the shorter end of setters. I think that's pretty given for for any coach or anybody who's played with me, I'm definitely not what maybe most college coaches would look at to bring in to set for their program. And so for me, it was like I wanted to go. Like I had my kind of pick between UCLA and Hawaii. Really, it came down to. I had some other options, but really, like when it came down to it, those are my two decisions. And every other school besides Hawaii was really like, we want you as our libero, because I played for the U19 national team. I played libero on that team because we had Josh Tuaniga, Mike Ama'a, some bigger setters, and so I told him I'd play libero on that team. And so for me, like, there's a lot of coaches like, oh, we're really interested in bringing me in to play libero. They didn't feel like that my style necessarily would transfer over to the college game very well. And so for me, like, I was, to be honest, myself and Mike Ama'a have such a good connection, and such a close friendship. Like I was like really heavily debating going to UCLA. I was pretty close to being sold. And then my dad, like, to be honest, every big decision I've ever made in my life, my dad has always given me like the perfect advice. Like, and I hate to tell him this because he's also the person, he's like, he will he won't hold it against you, but he'll like, he when you're in arguments, he knows he's right. Even if I'm wrong, I don't want to admit he's right. And so for me, like, he was like, listen, you need to go somewhere who believes in your skill set. You've trained your entire life as a setter. You need to go somewhere who, like, they fully believe that you can go in and run their program and be a setter at the next level. Yeah. And so for me, like, I've taken that everywhere I've gone. And I say this at the end of my career, I'm like, those 4 years at Hawaii were the most fun years I had in my entire life. It was like the best decision I'd ever made, for like so many different reasons. The volleyball, the lifestyle, like myself personally, like I felt like I matured, like just as a person in general, an immense amount, more so than I would have maybe going to a university like close to home and stuff. Yeah. And so for me, like my dad, like every decision I make, my dad is like giving me like super good advice on it. And sometimes I'm like resistant to listen to him, but I know at the end of the day that he knows me better than anybody besides my brother, really. I mean, I feel like my brother, my dad, and my mom know me super well. So yeah, that's kind of my journey. It's kind of a long story, but that's how I got to Hawaii.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, look, you don't want to look back with any regrets, and your ability to kind of just say, hey, that was the right decision for me at the time. It's got me to where I am today. It's the same way. I mean, when I was coming out of high school, I had a lot of different places I could have gone to, and choosing BYU was a little bit abstract at that point, because, when I was in high school, UCLA was UCLA. You wanted to go win national championships, you'd go to UCLA. But, I wanted to kind of pave my own path and help create something. And I if you talk to a lot of the BYU guys now, they talk about the foundation that we were able to set back then, winning our first national title and like what that turned the program into eventually, which is, how it is at BYU. They're just consistently pumping out good programs. And so I feel a sense of pride about that. And it helps me in my regard. There are times when I think, man, if I'd have gone to UCLA, I could have won maybe 2-3 national championships. But, I don't know if there would have been the same sense of like pride that I have in regards to setting a foundation that's been continued to be built upon at BYU.
I have a question for you, actually, because you brought up the topic of like regret almost. And I was speaking to somebody about this the other day, and I want to get your opinion on this. So for me, like I told people when they're making decisions, like for myself, the only time I've ever regretted anything, like in a volleyball match, off the court, in life in general, the only time I've ever regretted something, if it didn't work out, is when I make the less aggressive decision. If I make an aggressive decision and I'm like, and I believe it'll work, like if I go for a serve and I miss by a couple feet, or if I set my guy who's like super hot, even though he might the other team might know it's going to him, but we've been riding him all match, and everybody like that type of stuff, or in life in general, I always feel like if I make the aggressive decision, like I'll never regret that. And I want to like get your opinion on regret. Like, what is your opinion on regret in volleyball and life in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think you kind of hit it on the head, though, because I'm kind of one of those guys that's like, look, if I'm going to decide to do something, I'm going to go all in. You think about people that have achieved a certain level of success and continue to achieve a certain level of success. They typically don't have a lot of regrets because they're always thinking about the next step, right? They're always thinking about look, this might not even been the best decision, but I made the decision and I'm going to give it my all. You know what I mean? And so I use this term often. I say blissful ignorance because oftentimes, like, for instance, when I first got on the national team, I was fresh out of college. It was just at the finish of the 99 season and the 2000 Olympics were coming up. And I look back on it now and thinking, coming fresh out of college and trying to make the national team is not easy. Like, trying to establish yourself in the program and like establish your role on the team in such a short amount of time is not easy. And but I had this sense of being blissfully ignorant where it was just kind of like, look, I'm going to just go and I'm just going to ball out, and I'm confident in what I can do, and I'm confident that that quality, that value will be seen by the powers that be, and in the end, it's going to work itself out. But there was never any regret for me going there thinking, oh man, like, what if I don't make it, or what if I'm not good enough? You know what I mean? Should I even try? I've only got like 6-7 months to put in the work to try to make the team, when I'm trying to battle against guys that have been on the team and have established roles. But, you know, the ability to just kind of make a decision and just move and buy into that, I think is oftentimes what separates the really good players from the really great ones, is they just know how to just make the best out of whatever they decide to do. And I think it ties back to exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like what you described, I feel like the way I translated was that at the end of everything, that you have to be able to like look back and whatever the results were and be satisfied with where you are. So like exactly what you said. Like for me, I went to University of Hawaii, and my goal is national championship. Like that for me was the number one goal. And we got to a point my senior year, we were in the national championship game. And it was unfortunate, you know, it didn't go our way. And for me, like I talked to, like I said, Mike Ama'a, who's a national team setter right now too. He says the same thing. He's like, right now, like I'm done with UCLA. We didn't win a national championship, but you have to be able to sit there and think like everything I went through, was that worth it? Like the decision I made back then to go to this school, you have to be able, like, if it was an aggressive decision, it's the decision that you made, you have to be happy with it no matter what the results were. And for you, like you worked your butt off and stuff to put yourself in the right position. Like I think that's like super important. And I for sure agree with you on that. And so that's super cool to hear from you also. I also have to say, like, when you brought up the national team, so the first experience I have of like USA volleyball, or watching USA volleyball, I was 10 years old. I think I was 10 years old, and my family, we were up at Lake Tahoe, and it was the first time I ever remember like what the Olympics were. Like I think when I was the 2004 Olympics, I don't really remember anything from it, but the 2008 Olympics were the first time I could understand what it was, what the event was. And I remember my dad kind of explaining it to us, and we literally, like in our apartment that we had for the week, we set up 3 TVs just stacked on top of each other. And it was nonstop Olympics for just 2 straight weeks. And it was like from that point forward, and we were watching you guys every single match. Like, and I recorded I still have it on VHS tape, and we were watching you guys at all. So my first impression of USA Volleyball was like, we just kick everybody's ass. Like that's like I just watched you guys absolutely kick ass, and like that's my first impression is like, oh, USA.
I'm glad you didn't see any of the 2000 Olympics, because that might have turned you off.
And so like for me, like that was the coolest thing about, like, you asked me to come on here. I'm like, damn, like that was like my first like idea of what USA Volleyball was, is watching that team. And that was literally, we'd watch you guys, and the next day my brother and I, we'd go like out to the beach courts down in Lake Tahoe, and we'd try to do exactly what you guys are doing, like all day long. Then at night we'd go watch you guys, and then go back on the beach court. And so that was like I said, that was my first impression. So it was really cool. And cool. It's awesome. That's why when you asked me, like, damn, like that was the first memory that popped in my head.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to connect and set this up, because I respect the grind. You know what I mean? I respect you guys doing what you're doing, trying to make the national team. That's an effort. You know what I mean? Trying to live an Olympic dream. That's an effort. Playing overseas, it's a grind. People don't realize it. They think being a professional athlete is this really cool thing, and it is, but you got to sacrifice a lot. And so I wanted to ask you, you brought up something that I want to touch on a little bit. So, being a quote unquote kind of undersized setter, what advice would you give to other quote unquote undersized players out there trying to make it? You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
hear it time and time
Yeah.
again. It's like, how tall do you have to be a volleyball player? I'm like, you don't have to be any height. You gotta just want it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's more of a mental mindset around what. Look, I there is the old adage that you can't teach tall. I get that. I mean, there's
Hmm.
advantages to being 6'8". I wasn't most likely. I probably wouldn't have been able to have done what I did on the volleyball court if I wasn't given the height that I have and the things that I was given. But it doesn't mean that because I was 6'8", that's the reason why I was as good as I was. Do you know what I'm saying? You understand what
Hmm.
I'm saying, right?
100%. Yeah. 100%. I think, so I mean, I get this question like from all kinds of different kids and parents, and they ask me because Charlie Wade actually, like 2 months after I left Hawaii, he called me. He's cursing me out like in a joking way. He's like, now I got all these like 5'6", 5'5" kids calling me thinking they come set after I let you be my setter. And so that was pretty fun. That was pretty cool to be honest. And he's having to tell these kids like 5'5" is a little short, maybe like that'd be really tough. But so that was funny for me. But the first thing I say is like the setter coach relationship. It's such a trust. Like it relies so much on trust between those two. And for me, my first 2 years at Hawaii, I didn't play very much. Like I wasn't on the court. I felt like I could have played and gotten more opportunities, but the coaching staff, we had an older setter and he was playing well. And so for me, like I was still learning out and I worked my ass off like every single day. I was in the gym. I drag all the other young guys with me and we were just in the gym always. Just we put music on, we just go and we just reps and work on all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
And like junior year comes around for me at Hawaii and Charlie starts me. And to be honest, if I go out and I lose the first 3 matches as the starting setter, my ass play back on the bench. And like my career goes, it's a whole different story of kind of like where my career went. And who knows if I'm a professional athlete at this time. And so for me, like I tell kids, no matter they think like after Hawaii now everything's easy. Like go to the national team, I go pro, and just kind of like I had a really good year. Kind of I felt my senior year at Hawaii, and now things become easy for me. I'm like every single place I go, I have to restart that kind of build of like trust with my coach. And it's not whether I go to the national team, I go overseas. It's like the process starts right back at the beginning for me. Like especially being at my size, I walk in the gym. I'm not this. So we have some setters in our leagues who are in our league who are like 6'7", 6'8". I'm not that type
Yeah.
of like physical presence where I walk in and they're like, okay, yeah, that's gonna be our guy for sure. Like for me, even like at the time, like being at Friedrichshafen here, we have an older experienced setter, and like I have to like really work hard and fight for like playing time and stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, like I'm learning a ton. Like that's the biggest thing is I work with the Slovenian national team setter here, and so like I learn a ton from him. But I've also felt like I've taken like a lot of big steps in terms of my technical stuff and just like how I prepare and that type of stuff. But that's the biggest message I have is like as a short setter, you have to be in the mindset that everywhere you go, you have to like rebuild that trust and reposition yourself in a place where like the team believes that no matter like what height you are, that you're going to put the team in the best position to win. Because at the end of the day, that's what setters get paid for professionally. That's what coaches like. If you win, it doesn't matter. To be like I love watching Bruno Rezende, who's the Brazilian national team setter, and I
Yep.
like most setters I talk to, like he's not the best like location wise, technique wise, but he freaking wins, and that at the end of the day, that's what coaches want to see. Like if you're winning, that's what they want to see.
Yep.
And so that's my message to most guys. Like if you're a short setter and you get out there and you win, like what's the coach gonna say? Like I don't know. There's not much for him to say. If you can go out there and win, then that's my message for most kids who ask me.
Yeah, just figure out how to win because in the end, it's all about the W, right? I mean, it's what everybody's trying
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Tell me, what part of your game are you currently working on the most right now?
For sure, it's more like the technical stuff because like most of my life I spent on most like the tactical stuff. I understand watching so much. Like I love film. I can sit. My roommate here knows that I can sit here and just like watch film all day. I can just crank out film all day. And for me, that's like the easy part. And so
Yeah.
uh, going in and practicing, like I love the reps part. But to be honest, I've never worked with like a true setter's coach necessarily. Like I've had plenty of like really good coaches, but never like coaches who were like designated, like almost call themselves like setter coaches. And here at Friedrichshafen, we have had one and he taught me a lot. And so there's
Mm.
like different stuff I'm changing about my technique and my release. And so that like the smallest changes can kind of throw off things. And so you have to be able to kind of like take a couple steps back, which I felt like last year I did that. Like my first year overseas, I felt like almost like I've never had issue like doing that before, but and then I like had to kind of rethink things over. I'm like, I'm trying to change so many different things that I need to really focus on. Okay, these are the few things like I know how to set the ball at the end of the day. I know like which decision to make. And so for me, like I always, when the coaches come and kind of ask me like, all right, what do you need help with? I'm like, I just need you like the key points. You just hit me with that. Like there's like key phrases. If you tell me, then I'm like, all right, then I can kind of like refocus and get things straightened up. But once I get into like competition mode, I feel like I've always felt like no matter what I did like the practice the day before, I can get into a game and I'm like freaking dialed in and I'm ready to go. Like I can compete and I can compete with anybody. Like for me, I'll never say that somebody's better than me necessarily. Like that, like I might go watch and be like, all right, that guy's like playing at a really high level. But no matter what the coach says or whatever, I'll never feel like, oh yeah, that guy definitely is better than. That's just my mindset. Whether it's true or not, like I feel like that's how I have to approach the game, especially at my size and my age and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I don't know. Did I answer your question right?
Yeah, totally.
More like the technical kind of like touch stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think getting to another level of performance requires kind of this hyper confidence, right? Where there's not, you're inundating your mind with all of these confident thoughts versus anything that could be, some self-doubt creeping in. Cause that's where you really start stagnating your growth, right? Is when you're like, well, I am kind of small, or maybe I'm not as good as this guy. But instead you're kind of the opposite. It's like, look, I don't care. I'm just going to go out and ball. When it's game time, I know what I can do. I'm going to go out there and perform. I'm going to go execute. And in the end, you talked about how, and I'm going to win. I'm going to win more times than I'm not. And so if you've got that kind of hyper confidence, I think it really can drive a player in the right direction. It takes a while to kind of develop that though, right? Because typically when you're coming up, you do lose a lot. And like you talked about, you guys made the national championship finals, which is like a huge thing for you at Hawaii. And then you didn't get the job done. And for a lot of people that don't know how to get past that, where it's like, look, I know that we kind of laid it all on the floor, but I just wasn't good enough, or we weren't good enough. Maybe this isn't the right thing for me. Those types of self-doubt types of thoughts tend to stagnate growth, but your ability to say, hey, we got there, we gave it our all. We weren't the people that were going to win it that day, but I'm going to continue on and know that I can bring value to whatever team I'm on. And I think that continues to drive people forward. But it's a mindset shift, right?
100%, 100%. Like when I'm talking about when I'm talking to kids about where they want to go, like they have all these aspirations to go to certain schools. And I was the same way from when I was 14 years old. Oh, I want to go to UCLA. I want to go to UCLA. I think so many kids feel that way. And then I get to the decision-making process. And I'm like, this Hawaii coach, he's really, really, really like set on that, like how much he believes in that I can come in and like run his program from the setting position. And for me, like even my dad even had to still convince me, like, look, this guy, like 100% is in on you. And so that's what I tell kids. I'm like, you need to find somebody who believes in you. At the end of the day, you have somebody who believes in you and trusts you. Like that's all. The confidence part of it, which you just got into, is the most important part about competition in my eyes. You can go watch some of the best athletes in the world in any league, and if they're in a drought or if they're just kind of in a rut and they don't have confidence, they can look like a very average player most days.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like players such as like Steph Curry. I'm a big Warriors fan, but Steph Curry, he gets like, he's missing shots, his confidence goes down, he becomes a very average player in a way. Like, I mean, he's like relatively speaking, like in the league and stuff, like if he's not hitting his shots, he's in a rut. Like that confidence, as soon as he has confidence though, he's one of the most elite players in the world. And so that for me is like, you need to go to a place that it's going to instill confidence in you, not a place where you feel like, oh, I don't even know if they want me here. Like that's just a really crappy situation to be in. And so for you though, like what was like in your career, what were the biggest lessons you learned? That's a question like I would love asking like players such as yourself who have done so much for the sport and done so much off the court and on the court. So like from your career, like what were the biggest things that you learned to kind of lead to your success?
Yeah, I've said this a few times, but I think that one of the things is, look, I played international volleyball for almost 15 years on the national team. and playing overseas. And, that takes, it's like we talked about before, it's a grind. People think, wow, you're a professional athlete for that long, how fun. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of fun times, but there was also a lot of times where it sucked. And, you go crush yourself a day where you're working out 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And that you got to wake up the next morning and do the same thing over again. And you're just punishing your body, and your back hurts, your knee hurts, your shoulder hurts, whatever. And you just got to put your shoes on, you got to get back to work. And so I always had the mentality when I went into practice, and this is an old adage from Carl McGowan, who was our coach at BYU. He used to tell us, if you're going to be here, you might as well be here. Meaning, as soon as I step on the court, it's game time. Because I always knew that eventually that time that we were practicing was going to end. And there was going to be time when I was going to be able to relax and decompress and do what I needed to do to get my mind right. It's not always going to be bang, 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 even though it kind of feels that way. But I always focused myself on, when I'm in practice, when I'm in a game, if I'm going to be there, if I'm choosing to do that, I'm going to give it everything I have. So that was a big thing as well. And then another thing is I like to have a lot of fun. And I felt like anytime we were in practice, or anytime we were even in a match, even if it was tight, I'm still finding opportunities to find joy and fun in the game and what I'm doing. Because I feel like if you can genuinely feel the enthusiasm and the fun and what you're doing, then you're always going to want to keep doing it. And I feel like if you're out there and you're not having fun, then it's probably you're either not going to last very long, or it's going to be something that you're going to lose interest in, or you're not going to put your all into. And you know how it is. I mean, the margins of being a good player in volleyball are so thin, because there's a lot of good players in the world, a lot of good players. So what's going to separate you from the rest of them? And I think you got to tap into whatever works for you. And one of them for me was, if I'm in the gym, I'm in the gym. I'm doing what I can to be my best, to learn, to help my teammates win, whatever it looks like. And all that time, I'm having fun doing it. If I get a big stuff, I'm making a big hoopla about it. If I smash a ball, same thing. If someone gets hit in the face, we're going to roust guys. Anything you can do to find something that's fun, just so you can continue to feel that passion, I was always looking for.
What was different about that, like 2008 team compared to all the other teams? Because it was like, I mean, you hear kind of the cliche stuff, especially like being like in Anaheim and stuff like that. You hear people talk about it, you hear sort of the cliche stuff. But I was wondering if there's anything, like any moment that you point to, like that really kind of defined who we were, or why we were able to do what we were able to do on the court.
Yeah, there was a lot of pieces, because it was kind of like a puzzle that finally all fit together. You know what I mean? You've probably been on those teams where you just kind of like, man, like everything fits here. You know what I mean? Like Hugh, our coach, fit. And the way he led that team just is exactly what we needed. And then we had Loy come back and take over the team from a setting position, but not have the responsibility of being a team captain. He could just go and ball because he was so good at that. And then you got Riley and you got Reed on the outside, and there's such a steadying force on the left side. And then, Rich doing what he does at libero, and then Clay being the absolute beast that he was on the right side. And then Dave and I in the middle, kind of controlling everything. It just was really interesting at that time, because there were times during that quad from 04 to 08 where we were not very good and things weren't fitting. But it wasn't until we could finally kind of get the puzzle together, later part of 2007, we ended up winning World League. First time the US had ever done that, which was a big deal. So we went into those Olympics kind of feeling like, hey, like we're kind of running on all cylinders here. And if we continue to do that, we're going to come out with a really favorable outcome. Then, of course, the whole thing with Hugh's family happens, which we didn't anticipate, of course. And so that kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in the cog. But again, we were so tight at that time that it almost, people say, did that tragedy bring you guys together? And I'm like, well, not really. We were already together. We were already to go do what we needed to do. And it just, all of it kind of just fit in that moment. It was just a magical moment. I mean, it's the reason why up to that point, it had been 20 years since the last gold medal for the US. And now we're heading into 2020 or 2021, and we haven't won a gold since, because it's not easy to win a gold medal. It's not. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good teams and there's a lot of good players, and they're all trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve. And I think the team is positioned to be really good and be really competitive in Tokyo, but it's not going to be easy, as everybody knows. And it just so happened that the stars were a little bit aligned for us in 08 for everything to happen the way they did.
Yeah, no, you brought up like a really good point that I think a lot of people talk about in sports is timing, and the timing of like when a team is performing at their best. Do you feel like that's more on the personnel and the team themselves, or more on how the coaches design their training blocks and like that? Who's that? Obviously, like it's not all on one group of people, but who do you feel that's most? Who do you feel is most responsible for making sure that like the timing of the like peak performance is
Yeah.
at the right time for most teams? Like, who do you feel is most responsible for that in your eyes?
I mean, I think it's a dual responsibility because look, the coaching staff has a massive responsibility in crafting the harmony of the team, right? They've got to solidify the culture. This is okay to do. This isn't okay to do. When this play happens, you're going to be here. When this play happens, this is what's going to happen. So there's a system that needs to be put in place. And every coach has their own system, even though some systems are very similar. So like the way that we played in 08, we executed a system that was put in place by Hugh and the coaching staff. John's got a system now with the national team, and their job as players is then to go execute the system. And the better they execute the system, the more favorable the results will be. But I say there's dual responsibility because I don't care, even if you have the best coaching staff in the world, when the whistle blows, you've only got a head coach and he's just standing on the sidelines. He can't put that ball away. He can't set that ball to the right play. When the whistle blows, now the spotlight turns to the players. And it's their responsibility now to implement and to execute on everything they have been training for up to that point. I've used this quote on the podcast before because I think it plays perfectly into the sport of volleyball. I heard there was a quote from a Navy SEAL captain, and he said, under times of pressure, as Navy SEALs, we don't rise to the occasion. So a lot of people will ask us, like in 08, they're like, man, you guys really elevated your game to win the gold medal. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of pressure. It was the Olympics. We had the tragedy of Hugh's family. There was a lot of dynamics going on. They're like, wow, you guys really rose to the occasion. And this Navy SEAL captain says, no, we don't rise to the occasion. We sink to our level of training and preparation. That's why we train so hard as Navy SEALs. Because when the time comes, we know we have to be ready to go execute. And we're not going to rise to the occasion. We're simply going to sink to where we are prepared. And that always stuck with me because I'm like, that's so true.
100%. No, that's awesome. I hadn't heard that quote. I've heard a lot of different quotes kind of relating to that, but not that direct quote. That's awesome. I love that quote too. It relates to a lot of people, I think.
Let me shift gears a little bit. So I do this with all my guests just because I think it's kind of cool to get to know your psyche a little bit, to get to know the person on a more, not a personal level, but just kind of understand who you are a little bit. So these are kind of like rapid fire questions. You know, you answer them however you feel like you need to answer them. But the first one's probably going to take you, the most thought. But I'm curious, and I'm always curious what people say about this. So you get to pick your all-time team. Any player, any generation from anywhere around the world, and you got to pick your top 7 players. And everybody that you pick is in their prime playing days. So they're playing at their highest level.
So you say, okay, so when you say top 7 players, but I'm building a team, or I'm just picking my top 7 players?
You're picking in your perspective, the all-time team. So you got 2 outsides, you got a right side setter, you got 2 middles and libero. Who are you going to put on the court?
So first of all, I have to, because he was like one of my first, like I could never like not watch him enough. Jiba, he has to be on there.
He was on my team like, too. So
yeah, I feel like he has to be in there.
Who's your other outside?
Jiba. To be honest, and it might be kind of like just because I'm so young. I've been watching
no right or wrong answers. I've been watching like perspective.
I've been watching Leon over the past
Yeah,
3 years and just have been like incredible. I would probably pick him over just the people that I've watched, the people that I'm kind of going by just the people that I've watched the most.
sure.
Um,
I've actually been
Opposite.
surprised that nobody has picked him yet. You're the first one to pick him as one of the
Okay.
outsides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I I really like him, and I kind of hear about his mindset and how he's actually like a really great, just kind of like team guy, which is
Cool.
sweet. Like for those types of players, I think I hear stories about other guys who are in that same position. It's sometimes not that way. So
Yeah.
for me, that's super cool to see. And everybody who I hear who's kind of come in contact with him, and granted, there might be some people who have other views, but for me, like that's, I really appreciate that and respect that.
Okay.
Opposite, Clay Stanley. I mean,
Tough-
I
tough
think
to
I
pick
have to
against
throw him
him.
in there. Yeah.
He was otherworldly, man. I'm telling you, I've never seen anybody like him
Yeah.
before. Even practice, I'd see him bomb 80-mile-an-hour jump serves like it was nothing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, I might be getting like a little biased here from the American standpoint,
That's fine.
but I setting wise, what I love Lloyd just from his competitive spirit. Like for me, that's why I love Bruno, to be honest. I love like seeing Bruno like from a young age. I love watching him because people talk so much about, oh, he doesn't have the best technique and everything. I'm like, dude, he's a freaking Olympic gold medalist. He wins
Yeah.
every major tournament there is. Like he just gets out there and beats and kicks people's ass. So it's, for me, that's, I love that. But I have to probably go Lloyd just because the American bias.
Good.
Middles, I'm for sure gonna throw Ryan Millar in there. He's one. What
I'll
the no, like
Venmo you later.
for me. Okay, perfect. No, for me, to be honest, I think I've told, when I was in club, I told so many of our middles to go watch film on you and David, because there's so much to pick up. Just like for me, like the competitive spirit from, like you talked about it a little bit on your own, like that team in general. I think that's what is missing in a lot of like programs. Like there's so many programs that have the talent, and I feel like the professional and like even the collegiate level, like there's, everybody has the talent, but you just watch a team. It's like that team's going to do everything in their power to make sure that they're put in the position to win every single time. And so I'm gonna throw you in there, and then my second middle, probably Muzerski. I don't know. I think I'm gonna throw him in there.
He's a beast.
Libero, I'll go Sergio. I love Sergio. I love watching
Sergio
that guy.
was
He was
good, man.
incredible.
He was a
So that's
special
probably
one.
my, yeah. That's probably what I would
Dude,
put together in
that's a
my
good team. I'd love to play on that team, by the way.
And I think like
good picks.
the leadership, whenever you think of a team like that, you're like, oh, like on paper that seems awesome. But
yeah,
the leadership, I think that's why also like I think that team would be very good because they have the right kind of players and the right mindset with a lot of those guys that they could play together. I think so when you're putting together a team like that, me as a setter, I think about that because I played with plenty of talented guys who like they just don't fit the personality of the team. So for me, I think when I think of that team, I'm like, from everything I've heard and everything I've seen, I feel like that team could play well together.
That's cool. What's something that a lot of people don't know about you? Anything surprising that even like when you say it, even your friends or whatever might be like, hey, I didn't know that.
There's probably some of my friends who still don't know this. I probably have better ones in this, but my middle name is Montana. A lot of people don't know that.
Interesting.
And they see it's fake, but Joe Montana. Yeah, Joe Montana. My dad is he's not like a super emotional guy, but he told me like when I was younger that the one of the few times he's like actually like bawled in his life, like cried like super hard in his life, was when the catch happened. So that's like that tells you like he's not a super emotional guy, but so that tells you like how much it meant for him to name his son Joe Montana. Like that's the type of emotion that one naming is.
Is he still a Niners fan?
There's even
today?
like people. Oh, yeah,
hardcore.
He was at the NFC Championship last year. He's huge. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
We have everything possible 49ers you can think of. When we moved from New York, we some of it got lost in travel and kind of moving over, but we used to have all our phones were 49er helmets, all our shower curtains 49ers. We had this giant blow up 49er guy, like everything is 49er. So that's why I got named Joe Montana.
Oh man. Okay. What's the trait you most dislike about yourself?
The thing I most dislike about myself is how I'm not a disgusting is a really harsh term, but I'm messy in a way. Like, so
Uh-huh.
I won't go like I won't be there and be like disgusting, like gross, but I'll like leave like my like clean laundry just spread all over, like that type of stuff, and it kind of like annoys me because even myself, I walk in there like, I don't like that, but also I really like the idea of going just laying down and reading or
Yeah.
something or something like that. Or
Instead of
and so
cleaning.
like for me, that's yeah. And to be honest, my brother, like when I lived with my brother in college, like we fit perfectly with each other because he was on top of that, and I
Nice.
was always cooking, and he was always doing that and cleaning up. So it worked out well for us.
All right. What's the trait you most dislike in others? What super bothers you about other people?
um, Dishonesty for when I was raised. That's like the biggest thing my dad was like dishonesty and like not really whether that's not being true like who you truly are or just like straight up
Yeah.
lying like that bothers
Yeah.
the heck out of me. Like somebody who can lie to someone's face, to be honest, like especially if it's like a teammate or close family member, it drives me nuts. So that I would probably say that.
Okay. Have you had any near death experiences?
I feel like there's something I did in Hawaii. I'm trying to remember. There was something that happened in Hawaii, and I definitely kept it secret because I didn't want my coach to hear about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. There was I can't even really recall what it was. I remember something happening in Hawaii though when I was like one off day we were doing something. It wasn't like crazy like stupid, but it was like definitely like I can't even recall what it was. There's
Yeah.
nothing that stands out though specifically.
Okay.
And for sure I've had like moments that I'm like, oh, like there was one, we were talking about this the other day. Um we were on a flight to world champion U19 world championships to Argentina, and we were flying from Buenos Aires up to Resistencia, which is in the northern part, like almost in Brazil. And we were on this flight through a lightning storm, and
Oh yeah.
like it was the scariest thing ever because the plane when we got on at first, like it I remember them saying like one of the engines wasn't working well, and then we get on and it just was like this super sketch plane, and we were going through, it was like up and down, like so much turbulence, and it was like a really sketchy. Our whole team was pretty nervous. I usually don't get nervous on flights either, but I remember feeling like really nervous at one point. But
Yikes.
I never like, yeah. So that probably is the closest thing I would say.
Okay. If you never got into volleyball, what would you be doing right now?
Another sport. I'm like, so
Oh
it would be
yeah.
another, it would be probably football, or my parents always wanted me to get in tennis. They always felt like I'd be a good tennis player for some reason.
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't know why, um, but in my mind, like football or baseball, I think I always would have loved
Yeah.
to play baseball. I never really got it,
That'd be a
never
good
really
choice.
went into it. Yeah. So probably one of those sports.
Dream vacation, money's no object. Where you go?
Okay. New Zealand.
Yeah.
I would think
Good choice.
I'm gonna pick somewhere I haven't been. There's some really cool places that I've been to. Like Norway's been one of my favorite places I've ever been to.
Very
But
cool.
I would probably say New Zealand because it's just a part of the world that I haven't been down to. And so I would go with that.
Cool. Um, Last meal on earth, and you know it's your last meal. What are you gonna have?
My this is a tough one because there's a lot. It would for sure be a home cooked meal. My great grandmother's dry rib recipe. My mom learned how to make it. She makes it like identical to her. And it's like my favorite. Every time I go home, my mom knows like she prepares it and she's ready to make it as soon as I come home. But that's one of my favorite meals, and I can just like eat so much of it. But I'd probably have to say that it'd have to be home cooked meal because that's like my favorite thing
Yeah,
about going home.
that's cool. Name a movie or a TV show nowadays, because no one watches movies anymore. That where you teared up.
Teared up. When I was probably when I was younger, there was one movie. To be honest, I don't tear up at a whole lot of things, but there's when I was younger, because I love dogs. Anybody who knows me knows I'm like, I want to have a bunch of dogs. I just love dogs. Marley and Me,
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah,
movie.
that
I
was a
remember like
sad one.
when I was really young, because I thought it was, and I watched it right around the time when we had to put one of our dogs down. It was really sad.
Oh
So,
man.
so it was relatable. It was relatable too. So I think that added to it. And like I said, I don't cry usually, but that was kind of like in the moment and stuff, and around the same time period. So it really hit me.
Yeah. Okay, last one, and then I'll let you go because I know it's late and you need to get to sleep. You're probably tired. Wait, did you guys
Yeah,
win tonight?
yeah. We won. Yeah,
Oh,
3-1.
cool.
We won 3-1.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Who'd you play against?
Hershing. So we stay
Hershing.
on top of the Bundesliga table. Yeah, we stay in first
Nice.
place.
Very cool.
So we yeah,
Congrats.
Hershing, who's from Munich. Thank you.
Last one here. Give me one word you hope people will remember you by.
Oh, that is the hardest question.
Yeah.
Probably like genuine in the most,
Yeah.
like I always like, and I have to think about that sometimes too, like especially when you get to a point where you're like dealing with like professional like sports and stuff, and you're dealing with like business side of it. Like I hate dealing with the business side of it, and I always like have to remind myself, okay, I have to be genuine. Like I have to speak up for myself. I have to always do what I feel is best. And when I say stuff to people, like they have to understand that I like truly mean it. So like it comes from a place where like I want it to I don't just say it just to say things. And so every teammate that I've played, yeah, I think that's why they have a respect for stuff that I say a lot of the times, because I want everybody to be better at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well,
So that's
Joe,
why.
I appreciate it, man.
What about you on that last question? What about you on that last question? The
Oh
word that you would
man,
want people to remember you by?
you're right. It's a tough one. You know, gosh, because there's a few of them, right? Maybe tenacious. Like I'm never going to stop. I'm always going to keep pushing no matter what happens.
Awesome.
You know what I
Awesome.
mean? I'm just
Awesome.
look, I'm not going to cheat my way to the top. I'm not going to do it without integrity, but you know, I just want people to know that like I'm not a quitter. I just keep moving forward. Right. I think that's kind of the purpose of
Awesome.
life is like whatever it is, family, love, education, recreation. If you're just continuing to move forward, I think you can find purpose and happiness, you know?
Awesome. Yeah. That's sweet. That's
Yeah.
really cool. We got to get you. So my brother and I and Mike Kama'a, we have our own podcast. I have to get in contact with you, but you come on ours sometime.
Let's
You gotta
do it,
come on.
man.
If you can't handle the heat, is the name of it.
No,
So we gotta
bring it.
get you on it. So I'm gonna talk to them and figure out and I'll get a hold of you, kind of like figure out so we can go both ways. So we can hit you with you some questions. So
let's make it happen, man.
But awesome. Yeah. Thank you for this is awesome. Like I said, from a young age, like I remember like you're one of my first memories of volleyball. So
it's cool, man. Thanks for making me feel old.
I didn't mean to do that, but I had to bring it up because like when you wrote me, that was like the first thing that popped in my head. Like I have to bring it up. Like I'll kick myself if I don't bring it up. So yeah, thank you though. Thank you. This is awesome. And
good luck, man.
Awesome
the rest of the season
here.
Good luck and you know, stay healthy and stay happy, and we'll connect again at some point.
I appreciate it. Being healthy is the most important thing at the end of the day.
It is.
So everybody, especially in current times. So
yes.
health, best health for everybody. So thank you again. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.